All right, welcome back to the Now Morning Show here on TTT. I am Natalie Legore, and we're going across the St. Vincent and the Grenadines again to speak with the director of the National Emergency Management Organization, Miss Michelle Forbes, to just get the perspective of the government and the emergency organization about what's been happening, what they've been able to do, how they've been able to do it. Good morning to you, Ms. Forbes.
Good morning to all.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. What's the latest update you can give us?
Well, the Soufriere volcano, we continue to have explosive eruptions. Last night, just before 11, we would have had another eruption and pyroclastic flows going down towards the East Coast in particular. And we know that from what we call from Rabaca northwards, and on the East Coast is in the red zone, but below Rabaca really from Georgetown northwards. So those communities have had pyroclastic flows, and we have seen the evidence of it even from the surveillance by the Coast Guard along the coastline. We still, unfortunately, had a few persons moving. They're still in the red zone. The Coast Guard brought out 12 persons last night. Yesterday evening, so people are still not, we hope that people are not in those communities despite all the warnings, but we still had persons up in Oya in particular. So we continue really to look at meeting the needs of the persons. We have about 4,000 persons in emergency shelters. Okay. And another 6,000 persons who have been confirmed living with other relatives, but we expect that number to increase as persons start to make their way into providing information to different agencies, to NEMO, whether it's a social development.
Right. Ms. Forbes, can you tell us, with the pyroclastic flows, I know that can be quite dangerous. Have we had any damage to property, to infrastructure, to the lands? What can you tell us there?
Well, we have on the western side, where we have in the pyroclastic flows, there are no communities or infrastructure per se around those areas. But however, as the pyroclastic flows continue, they may actually reach further along the shore and be able to destroy coastline structures that are nearby, people that are built close to the coastline. So the leeward side is a bit more further away from the communities, but we have seen evidence that the pyroclastic flows have reached further now that it has actually got down into the sea.
Right.
And when it gets into the sea, it can actually skirt on the sea, like when you throw in a pebble and you see how far it can go out.
Yes.
It can do that. So that's on the western side.
Are there any fears though? Sorry, are there any fears that the pyroclastic flow all the way to the sea can cause any kind of phenomenon?
I don't think there are fears per se. I know persons would have discussed, we had to think of a lot of questions leading up to this explosive eruption, whether we can have a tsunami or what. But for you first to do that with the volcano, you have to have a major plant collapse to generate that kind of phenomenon in terms of a tsunami. So we are not seeing that at the moment. And volcano cone collapse or the side of the flanks collapse, those tsunamis anyway tend to be more localized. So we are not seeing anything like that, no other phenomena, except if the pyroclastic flows go down, it can actually travel a good bit along the coastline and affect, if their boats too close to the coastline and buildings that are very close to the coastline, they can affect them, destroy them.
Right.
On the windward side, though, we are seeing damage. We cannot go over into the red zone yet to do any damage assessment. It's not safe. But we have seen pictures from persons who are still in the communities. We have had quite a bit of lahars and pyroclastic flows flowing into communities like Sandy Bay. So we can see the damage. We have had collapsed roofs because of the heavy ash in Sandy Bay in particular. And we expect when the time comes, we can actually go in or fly a drone or do aerial surveillance in those areas. Clearly, we'll be able to see some destruction in those communities.
Right. Well, I really hope that it ends quickly, because I know that the longer it is sustained, the more issues we're going to be having in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But I spoke with the director of U.S. Seismic Research Center, Dr. Joseph, who was explaining to me that apart from the ash contaminating the water, is that the ash on power lines can also cause fires. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, we have had the first large pyroclastic flow that we had actually has been accumulating on the wires, and we had a power outage, but the power company has been able to do very well, and we have received power to most of the country that has been impacted. Only there are a few pockets here and there that we have some challenges still, but it did affect our power after the last big pyroclastic flow. And then, because remember that time we had about 2 or so days of ash accumulating. We had ashfall probably almost 2 days going. Right. So we had some disruptions there. I think the biggest disruption really is in the water sector, where we have to turn off the system to avoid damage and infiltration by the ash. And of course, once you have a water problem, the entire nation is now being affected. Mainland St. Vincent, that is, because it's not just those persons who have been displaced or living in emergency shelters now. It's the entire population that depends on the pipeline water.
Right.
So I think that is really where it is. But I know the Water Authority, we call it CWSA here. They're trying their best to restore to many areas as possible. Yesterday was not too bad. I think most persons were able to receive a little water somewhere, except for a few areas. So they continue to work on that. So we know, and that is our concern about this particular type of eruption. If we continue to have the ashfall, the explosive eruption ashfall, it will continue to affect our water supply. So that's one of the areas that we're definitely keen to address going forward. How do we provide potable water to the population?
Right. And when Dr. Gonzalez spoke, he was saying that he believes that the water levels are down to about 20%. But where is that water coming from? Because our understanding is that the catchment areas are open just as they are here.
Yes, the water comes from the catchment. We have a few groundwater resource that is being used by the water company, not a lot. So we have one source there, and the reservoirs. When the reservoirs that was holding the water, that is what is low. Because we cannot pull the water from, of course, the catchment areas because they open and fill with ash.
Yeah.
So that's part of the issue with the water.
Talk to us about the ash, because one of the things that we learned here is that when the ash mixes with water, depending on how much it is, it might turn to a concrete-like thing. But has NEMO been cleaning as it go along, or is it just waiting until everything settles? How do you address the issue of the ash across the island?
There has been some cleaning, mainly in and around Kingstown. If you go on the leeward side or the windward side beyond a certain area, the ashfall is quite heavy. But we don't have the water to clean either. Number one.
Yeah.
The dust, of course, if you try to creep or anything like that, can affect you more than you're trying to clean up. So it's a situation. What do? You don't have water to clean the ash, Do you just wipe off your windscreen if you have a vehicle? Do you just wipe off your steps if you're there? What do you do in a situation like this? Because you just don't have the water to waste. Every drop is precious now.
Yes.
So it's a balancing act. We were able to clean up Kingston a few days ago, and then we had the pyroclastic flows. But Kingston is not too bad. But the other outer areas, the roads are. I feel the dash.
Yeah.
I feel the dash.
Right. Well, I saw that at least Caribbean islands have been stepping up to, help with the supplies to ensure that they do what they can to help St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Do you have enough water from that kind of source? Are you getting enough, or is there still a shortage? Is the shortage so severe, is what I'm asking, that you need more than what you're receiving?
I think today we'll start to receive quite a bit, and I think we continue. It's a fluid situation.
Yeah.
We continue to do the assessment. I know we have quite a bit of water offloading now from the Trinidad Defense Force that came in. So that water we want to be able to distribute it straight to the communities and the shelters in particular. This morning, we have a few pockets of areas that haven't received water for about 2 days.
Right.
So we want to get into those areas. So that persons can have some water. The trucks that, for example, that came up on the boat, they are going to be incorporated into the CWSA, the Water Authority mechanism for distribution of water. So we have 3 additional trucks from the Trinidad government that we are going to use to deliver water. So that's good. So So the water issue is going to continue, as I indicated earlier. Once we continue to have the explosive type eruption, we welcome the water that is coming in, but at some point we have to be mindful of the bottled water coming in. But we need it now. This is still the emergency phase, and we will assess each day our needs in particular to see and address our changing needs.
Now we know that the ash. We know that the ash comes with its own problems, but what also, and even the pyroclastic flow. But have we had anybody getting sick as a result of the constant ash right across St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
Yes. We have increased respiratory reports to the hospital. One of my staff, my driver, had an asthma attack. So he had to be on leave. He can't be about. So we are seeing issues popping up here and there because just the amount in the atmosphere is affecting persons. They're asking for more asthma pumps and that kind of stuff to really relieve their discomfort or their tightness in their throat and their chest.
Right.
So we have definitely seen an increase.
And what of businesses? Is it that we're just going with essential services who are out and about working, or are all businesses still opened?
Businesses are still open. We had quite a few yesterday, quite a few opened, and I think as the days go by, I think the biggest challenge is the water. Even if they open, they have to provide amenities for their staff. So that is still ongoing. But businesses have been opening.
Right. And what of the supplies? I know one of the things we heard from the Office of Disaster and the ODPM, Office of Disaster Management and Preparedness here, is that we don't want St. Vincent and the Grenadines to end up with unsolicited items. So what are some of those items that the country still needs so that if somebody wants to send, they know what to send?
Okay, I was actually just going to my needs list there because I'm amending it as I speak.
Yeah.
So there are things that will be removed today that were there before. But we still need the care items for persons. But we know those are coming in bit by bit, and we expect when we have more stuff from the diaspora in particular, those will come in also. So we have quite a few things on our own. We have our needs list that we have circulated regionally, internationally, and we're updating it at the moment. I'm just trying to get into it for you.
And what is it? No problem. That's all right, because the ODPM has up a list here, so we could always check in with that. But what of the agriculture, though? Because even here in Trinidad and Tobago, we receive quite a lot of ground provision from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. How severely has that been affected by the volcanic eruptions?
It has been impacted severely. I wouldn't want to speak to agriculture, but yesterday they had a meeting, and I know they have certain requests so that they have shared with their regional colleagues in terms of their needs. So it has been impacted. Food security is going to be an issue for us.
Right.
It's definitely going to be an issue. So the agriculture is actually already meeting to address those fallouts, if you want to put it that way.
Right.
They've already been a bit proactive and actually meeting to determine, what are the next steps and how they're going to address it.
So it's not recommended that anything that the ash has been on be eaten?
The vegetables in particular, because I know they're circulating some advice to the public. So the vegetables in particular, they're concerned about.
Okay, well, I'm definitely not surprised by that because, nobody knows if it will be, have any adverse effects if people are to consume those. So let's hope they have been, paying attention to that. But what about compliance from the population in, regards to staying inside, trying not to get as much exposure? Have there been that kind of compliance from the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
To some extent, we have had some. We still have persons going on sightseeing and looking to see if they can see a pyroclastic. So I don't know why would anybody want to leave their home to go and do that. So we still have persons trying to do that. Though a minor section of the population doing that. But most persons have been pretty much staying indoors. Yesterday I went through town. It was a normal work day. Some places open, some places didn't. And, I saw a bit of persons in town and they were all covered down, their hair covered down, Australia goggles, etc. So most persons are generally compliant, but you have a few who still are going around, you know, with the trying to get over into the red zone.
Right. I know that we've been told that we don't know how long this is going to last, but do you find that there is more time between the explosive eruptions?
Yes, there's more time now, and I know you scientists would be explaining that we had 2 eruptions yesterday, one at 6:30, one at 10:48. So it appears as if there's some kind of dome building happening, and then when the pressure builds up, it blows out the dome. You know, so it appears as if that is happening now. So you know, so we're having some time between, and I think the volcano now is really establishing a pattern that the scientists will be a bit more comfortable with.
Right.
Yeah.
And how have you been able to manage not only the explosive eruptions, but also the COVID-19 pandemic, especially now where we have people, you know, in a lot of clusters, a lot of close proximity? How are you able to manage that?
It will present the challenges, and I think that is what that will be our greatest fear going forward in terms of the COVID-19 environment, because when in an emergency, a lot of persons tend to throw caution out of the window, you know, so, you know, that's our concern, and from the Ministry of Health concern too, so, you know, those are some of the things that we are monitoring and watching closely. The Public Health Ministry of Health ensuring that they're getting into the shelters daily to, you know, to really look at the situation in the shelters,
right.
The public health, you know, issues that may arise. You know, so it's a constant monitoring.
Still been able to vaccinate? Still been able to continue the vaccination program even with the volcanic eruptions?
Yeah, it continues. That continues. So. But, you know, still the uptake is still low from what I'm hearing from the Ministry of Health, so the uptake is quite low.
All right. Ms. Forbes, I know that you're definitely busy, and I can hear the phone, so I know you have work to attend to, but we want to thank you so much for sharing with us this morning. We really appreciate all the information.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Okay. Director of the National Emergency Management Organization in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Michelle Forbes, talking to us there about what's happening. And she's saying that now they think they have a pattern, you know, of how the volcano is erupting. So hopefully they'll be able to treat with that. We take a break and we'll be back with you.